Well, good afternoon, everybody, and it's great to see you all. And those who don't know me, I'm Paul O'Craig, the Vice-Chancellor, and it's my very great pleasure to introduce this inaugural lecture by Anita Biressi, our Professor of Media and Society, and the lecture, as you can see, is called Employable Me, Career Guidance for Neoliberal Times. And I have to say, I'm looking forward to it very much. Let me tell you a little bit about Anita. Her first degree was in English literature, and she studied at the Polytechnic of North London. Then she followed that with a postgraduate diploma in Library and Information Studies, a PGCE, a Master's in Cultural Studies, and then a PhD in Cultural Studies at the University of East London. Her first academic post was at Bucks New University, but I'm pleased to say it wasn't long before she joined us here at Roehampton, coming to us in 2002. Been here even longer than me, so just and she came as a senior lecturer in media and cultural studies, and since then, of course, she's held a number of roles, including head of the subject for media, film, journalism, photography, and what was in the School of Arts. And during that time, she has, of course, developed a truly outstanding international reputation for the quality of her research. And I'm delighted to say that in 2015, the university was able to recognise Anita's achievements with promotion to this personal chair. Her research at a broad level sort of explores the fundamental relationships between media, politics and the social world, and I think there's a particular emphasis on social equality, social mobility, gender, and then she writes some specific subjects around that include politics in the media, popular TV, and the work of Ayn Rand. Anita's a really prolific author, and as many of you will know, a lot of her publications have been written in collaboration with Professor Heather Nunn, who I'm delighted is here with us this evening. Their books together include Reality TV, Realism and Revelation, which came out in 2005, and Class and Contemporary British Culture was in 2013, and that dealt with narratives about social class and class differences in contemporary culture. And that book was, I think, widely regarded as a landmark book. It was widely reviewed with great enthusiasm. I was reading the reviews this afternoon. I picked out two quotes that I liked. One said, "If you care about the fate of society in neoliberal democracies such as Britain, you really must read this book." And then the Irish Left Review said, "It's an intellectual tour de force boasting a rare combination of theoretical rigour and page-turning clarity." Now, I don't think you very often get theoretical rigour and page-turning in the same sentence in a review. So that, I think, shows just how special their work and their approach is. Anita's written numerous journal articles and book chapters, both with Heather and as a sole author, and they cover a wide spectrum of cultural and social issues. Recent topics have included the London 2012 Olympic Games opening, an article on continuity and change in working class lives, feminism in the 2000s, and the reputation in the media of disabled young people. Anita's the editor of the Journal of Gender Studies, and she's on the editorial board, I think, at least 7 other journals. She's chair of the Media, Communications and Cultural Studies Association, and on top of all that, she's a really outstanding and inspiring teacher who is really deeply committed to her students. So I think we're extraordinarily lucky to have her as a colleague. Please welcome Professor Anita Biressi.
Okay, thank you for the welcome. I greatly appreciate this invitation to deliver an inaugural lecture here at Roehampton. And as you can see, the talk is called Employable Me, Career Guidance for Neoliberal Times. And despite the title of this presentation, this isn't going to be all about me, okay? But it's a place to begin. My work, much of it co-authored, as Paul mentioned, with my inspirational partner Heather Nunn, is interdisciplinary and wide-ranging, and always embedded in the political concerns of British cultural studies. I've written about documentary and reality television, crime in the media, social class, gender and news. And if I've learned one thing, it's that the media provides us with models of how to live in the world, and media literacy, our teaching, equips us in how to recognise these models for what they are and to challenge them when necessary. As this is an inaugural lecture and it celebrates a milestone in my career, I thought I would focus on what the media teaches us about career success and employability. That makes sense to me. I'm going to talk about those public narratives that show us how to get on the career ladder, how to build a career, how to keep our jobs, and even how to love our jobs. I'm going to explore a variety of ways in which contemporary media culture guides us, directs us, and yes, literally tells us how to extract the best from our economic lives in times of austerity. Now, in January, I delivered a keynote lecture for MEXA, chaired by Professor Janet Jones, in the front row, who's going to be my respondent, on the ways in which we're learning to self-brand for our careers and to convey our passion for work. In that talk, I focused on the career selfie, which I will go on to discuss in more detail later, so apologies for some people who've heard a little bit about career selfies already. I began the MEXA talk with this image. So this shows me with students from the MA Media and the Social Self module back in 2015, and I know I've got some MA students here today, so it's good to see you. As I noted in my MEXA talk, this was my first ever selfie, albeit a group one, and I felt obliged to at least try to take one because the course focuses on social media. I had to join Facebook in order to work out what needed to be done. I posted it on our department Facebook page, and I worried quite a lot about why I was taking it and where I should post it. What was its purpose? Okay? Was I promoting the course? Was I promoting myself? What messages did it convey? I love my job. I'm a popular teacher. Could it be those? In other words, what's going on there in communication terms? Anyhow, the rediscovery of this group selfie for that conference led me to search my albums for more workplace photographs. There's nothing I could find from my days working for either the civil service or for Westminster Social Services, which were both actually significant jobs before I took my first degree. I did find a slide taken with colleagues from my days at Buckinghamshire Children's University College, as it was called then, which is my first full-time permanent post, with the future Professor Bainbridge seated to my right. Caroline, I don't know where you are now, but there you are. It's a flattering picture. And then I have another inexplicable photo, to my mind, of me taken with my media class, also at BCUC, which I guessed is around 2000. I found one more, dated, I think, 2008, taken at a Waterston's book launch with dear people Paul Rickson, Andrea Essa, Heather and again Caro. I have a small photo on my sadly underused Twitter account, and that's about it. None of these, aside from the first, were taken by me with purpose and consideration. In other words, they weren't for self-branding or to promote me or to promote my employer. They weren't edited or filtered. Perhaps this is typical of my generation. In one sense, there's literally nothing to show or share visually for all those years of labour, by which I mean that I'm from a generation which has clung to the notion, possibly mistakenly, that the work we do, rather than the performance and visibility of work, is central to our public identities, to recognition, and to self-respect. So, this is about neoliberalism, and having said that, in neoliberal times, we are all under increasing pressure, regardless of generation, to believe that a successful career is important and that success can be measured in visibility and the performance of work. Neoliberalism is a common-sense way of imagining and directing the future of the social and economic fields. It's a way of seeing the world, right? It's also a set of marketised practices through which social relations and economic, institutional and commercial activities which we all go through are understood. These practices include framing economic policies aimed at rolling back the state, minimising regulation, making space for entrepreneurs and financiers to create capital more freely. Neoliberalism's vision of the future is one of infinite growth and change. It is neoliberal economics that has arguably led to the emergence of what's sometimes called the precariat class of individuals, for whom stability, security, and lifelong work in a single organisation is becoming a pipe dream. Generation rent, workers on zero-hour contracts, sole traders, and the self-employed workers of the gig economy are among those experiencing the aftermath of that massive global financial downturn which kicked off a decade ago. But workers are frequently reassured that these conditions are a gift rather than a problem. Despite the challenges, it's understood that we live in a meritocracy, a social system in which people gain status or reward because of what they do, rather than because of wealth or social family advantage. If we adhere to that famous formula, effort plus ability equals merit, and we believe that merit will lead to success, then we can all move forward, each according to their talents, energy and drive, at different paces, but we'll all move in the same direction. But as we negotiate this tricky terrain of our future hopes and our plans, who will guide us? Where are our maps and compasses? This is what I ask in my abstract for this talk. What lessons are there to be learned about living the successful life, and who are our teachers? Reality TV, talk show hosts, self-help and career industries all claim to have answers, okay? Offering us guidance on securing a job or client contract, getting a promotion or pay rise, developing that positive mindset. So today I'm going to signpost 5 key lessons delivered to us by the media and suggest that these lessons taken together are a problem because they effectively silence other kinds of necessary conversations that the public might have about our working lives and how we manage our working lives. Okay, so lesson 1, feel the fear. Let's begin then with the first lesson. Feel the fear, and fear can help us thrive. Fear of poverty, fear of failure, status anxiety can all be the spur to action. American psychologist Susan Jeffers' popular manual, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which was published in 1987, made this very argument. Going through many editions, it's still promoted as, quote, dynamic and inspirational, filled with concrete techniques to turn passivity into assertiveness. Jeffers teaches you how to stop negative thinking patterns and re-educate your mind. You will learn the vital 10-step positive thinking process, how to risk a little every day, how to turn every decision into a no-lose situation. With the guidance offered by Jeffers and others, those of us reaching maturity during the Thatcher years and beyond have been schooled, theoretically, I'm not very good at it, at negotiating the pay rise or applying for the promotion. Is the Jeffers message still relevant? One commentator back in 2012 claimed that for younger people, this isn't relevant because they've been brought up to be fearless. They don't need a pep talk. But I think it's more complicated than this. Yes, perhaps millennials and post-millennials have been told they can achieve anything they put their minds to. But that doesn't mean that there is nothing to fear, or that they are not fearful. For those reaching adulthood more recently, Generation X, Y, Z, whatever we want to call them, there has been a stressful hike in expectations around education and personal success. This annoying cartoon appeared in the Metro on Friday, so I just slotted it in. It's a cartoon about my generation shopping for property in Umbria and drinking red wine and stacking up our pensions. It particularly annoyed me. So, and it's my talk. Okay. And it's commonly agreed that young people's prospects are poorer than those of their parents and grandparents. From the late 70s onwards, increasing numbers of people managed to buy their own homes in Britain, and property has always been equated in the UK with security, self-respect and financial independence. Indeed, the baby boomers, born between 45 and 65, so just clip in there, have been criticised since the credit crunch specifically for their success in building resources via the housing market, concentrating wealth and taking advantage of state and public service pensions. Generation Rent, on the other hand, has been criticised for other reasons, for its self-regarding complacency, for relying on the bank of mum and dad, for splurging cash on avocado on toast. And they've been called the snowflake generation. These generational stereotypes are divisive, and it's surely safe to say that whatever our generation, we're being sold solutions to complex problems on the basis of fearfulness. And this fear is rooted in the reality of the changes that we actually do face going forwards. The media know how to tap into these fears and to harness them for commercial purposes. As an example, I'm going to play you an advert from the Wealth Simple Investment Group, and they target the novice younger investor, a very new audience.
Money's important. Saving for the future is important.
Whoa! That's a wake-up call.
Have you thought about the future? Have you thought about it at all?
Buy low, sell high. What does that mean?
You should meet my money guy. I've got a better money guy.
My money guy got me into Facebook earlier.
Futures are up 3%. It appears the bulls are running.
This is an opportunity.
Have you thought about the future?
You know what you want?
Interest rates, they're rising.
You should be in commodities.
Annuities.
Bonds. High risk, high reward.
What about your retirement?
The time is now. The time is right now.
Have you thought about it?
Wake up!
Just going to stop there. That's perfect. Okay, so the video, which was played at the Canadian Super Bowl and is now on British TV and all over Instagram, was praised by one viewer as a great video to get those anxiety levels all the way up. I felt a bit stressed, and I also found it very entertaining, though, which is the point, I suppose. Wealth Simple's message is that an entrepreneurial mindset is the right way to finance those things in life which we must surely want: the grand house, the property portfolio, the enhanced pension. Adverts such as these are part of a larger media syllabus of instruction based on the carrot and the stick. Fear of failure is the stick. Affluence and status enhancement are the carrots. So, lesson 2, learn to be entrepreneurial. Reality TV, often dismissed as uninstructive trash, should in fact be viewed by scholars as a key field in which carrot and stick incentives are played out. Reality TV explores current pressures on individuals and communities. It holds up a mirror to society and tests out various social models for neoliberal times. So, for example, it praises successful neoliberal subjects, encourages competition, champions meritocratic values, and shames the failures and the refuseniks. Programming based around business, enterprise, and the world of paid work offers a simple illustration of the discursive and pragmatic alliance between economics and mass entertainment. And these come together to endorse the enterprising qualities that we need to respond to hard times. So this is a promotional picture from The Apprentice. In other words, shows like The Apprentice, Dragon's Den, or more recently, My Migrant Millionaire Boss, provide a popular education in what it means to be a contemporary entrepreneurial worker. Young people are often portrayed as being in the vanguard of neoliberalism, and they feature in these programs predominantly. First, they are workers who are potentially better suited and more adaptive than perhaps my generation to recent social and technological changes. And second, as social characters, they naturally typify optimism, futurity, and unabashed social advancement. Shows like The Apprentice run alongside a huge expansion in schooling and training of youngsters to become entrepreneurs. Business leaders, such as multimillionaire Dragon's Den investor Peter Jones, strongly advocate enterprise training in primary schools. Jones declares, until you have entrepreneurship education from 7 to 17, you will not have people leaving school and starting a business. So there's been an extensive mobilisation of enterprise projects, courses and initiatives in schools and colleges across the social spectrum, including at Eton, the Northern Schools Networks and further education colleges. Jones' own scheme entitled Tycoons in Schools forms part of the wider Jones Foundation campaign to put enterprise at the heart of the education system. It seeks to encourage people to make it in Britain and to live their dream, and dream's an important word here. It does this through inspiring excellence through a network of enterprise academies where passion, self-belief and go-getting attitudes are nurtured. So, lesson 3. Of course, being successful is harder than it looks, and many people struggle to make the grade, or even to make a living. So reality TV and career coaches reassure us that every problem is an opportunity. Following the global financial downturn, TV developed a popular set of factual formats, welfare and career programming, which basically aimed to transform various social types into self-reliant, self-supporting citizens. These types included the welfare dependent, the unemployed graduate, the disabled job seeker, as featured in the recent series Employable Me, from which I've stolen the title of this talk, and the underqualified teenager. In 2008, I wrote about one of these shows, the earliest one, Benefit Busters. Benefit Busters depicted the work of a third sector agency contracted to run New Labour's Welfare to Work scheme, which was designed to get the long-term sick and unemployed back into paid work. With the blessing of the Department of Work and Pensions, my former employer by another name, the series focused on hard-to-place benefit claimants. It followed the work of the Shaw Trust charity and of the later badly discredited global training agency A4E. The aim was to motivate clients and make them work-ready. And as you'll see, it features A4E's director Emma Harrison, who was a politically influential business director who was at that time promoting her entrepreneurial philosophy. Okay.
Why aren't you queuing up outside McDonald's Burger King?
This is quiet.
Why aren't you queuing up at their door if you want a job so badly?
The government wants to revolutionise the welfare system, and it's targeting the lone parents, the long-term unemployed, and the sick.
I don't genuinely think that some of the most important is what they're saying they are.
The bill for social security benefits keeps on rising. It's now more than all the income tax paid by British taxpayers put together.
Benefits ground your lone parent, blah blah blah. Sapping off system, can't be bothered to work, staying at home and using the kids as an excuse. You've heard it all before, haven't you?
A fair system that balances the offer of a carrot to those who really want to work and a stick to those who don't has eluded all political parties.
You have to conform or just take off the program. Get the story.
This government's radical idea is to expand the role of private companies and charities for getting people off benefits and into work.
You know, I've had people say to me, Emma, I can't possibly take that job. Thanks for finding me that job. But who's going to walk my dog?
That's Emma Harrison.
We want to work alongside somebody who wants our help, and together we'll find a way forward.
Paying by results has given rise to a new breed of benefit buster.
There is not one of you in this room that cannot go out and get a job tomorrow, and that is a fact.
As the trailer suggests, A4E's course leader, Hayley Taylor, is the star character. She was later given her own show, which you probably do know, The Fairy Godmother. Taylor aimed to boost confidence. Positivity is the key to everything, she says. Her syllabus aimed to change caterpillars, lone parents in the case of her own course, into job-ready butterflies via a programme of tough love. She was paid by results. A4E was given 6 weeks by the government to make a difference, just like a reality show has 6 weeks. Taylor's job-ready makeover involved banning casual clothing, negativity and excuses. She confronted lone parents about their personal obstacles to employment and paraded them literally in front of the job centre to remind them how low they had slipped from the social ladder. Now, Taylor's mantra that positivity is key is widely used in career coaching. She taught her clients that fear and vulnerability are unacceptable. These are embarrassing feelings which we have to repress or repurpose so that we can all get on with the job. I'm going to end lesson 3 with an example of how these feelings are silenced, with an example from the world of American radical personal finance, one of my new guilty pleasures. I do like listening to this stuff. Now, just to warn you, the beginning's a bit loud and it's Jerry Rafferty, but that will calm down, and then you will hear, this is a clip from a radio show in which Courtney rings up Dave because she's about to lose her job.
That's 888-825-5225. You jump in. We'll talk about you right in front of you. We're there to help you win. We're not going to cause you to win. We're going to show you how to win, and you're going to go do it. You're going to get up, leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home, and you're going to do that because you believe it works, and you believe you're in control of your destiny. That's how we do it here. Courtney is with us in Indianapolis to start off the day. Hi, Courtney. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up in your world?
Well, we're kind of getting ready to have a change in our lives. I'm probably going to lose my job in May after working for 15 years as a contracted bus driver for a school corporation, and we've been saving money, and we flipped the house recently, and it's going to close next month, and the plan was to use that money that we make to pay off the rest of our house, but now I don't know if that's what we should do or not.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
What do you make driving a bus?
After taxes, usually like $32,000 a year.
So what are you going to do the rest of your life?
I don't know, I'm scared.
I think it's awesome. Because I think you probably would have driven that bus forever. And now you got the opportunity to go do something better. Nothing wrong with driving a bus, but I think you can go do something better now. And you wouldn't have jumped out of that nest by yourself. I think it's fun that God pushed you out. So you spread your wings. And then, you're going to work through the end of the school year, aren't you?
Yes.
So you got 6 months to work on this.
He then gives her some quite useful advice, perhaps. I'm not quite sure about that. So, Ramsey's Tough Love radio show is syndicated across more than 500 radio stations in the States. He's the founder of Financial Peace University, which by many people's testimony has taught them financial independence in a world where credit and consumerism threaten to bleed them dry. He's authored 5 New York Times bestsellers which advocate strict personal budgeting and financial planning for self-sufficiency, so that you can lead the life you want to lead, donate to charity, and leave a legacy for your kids. As you heard there, Ramsey also insists that every challenge is an opportunity. So, we felt the fear, learned to be entrepreneurial, turned every problem into an opportunity. So far, so 20th century. So what's happening in the 21st? In the 21st century, the lesson 4 should be confident, yes, but have fun too. On the 12th of November 2014, a recruitment agency called the Job Factory Facebooked the findings of its own research, which revealed that employees who took more selfies tended to have higher pay rises. Director Craig Binney was quoted as saying, "Meek employees who sit in the corner with their eyes glued to the computer screen might be great workers, but they do not always stand out when bosses are thinking about who to reward during pay reviews. The confident look at me, let me take a selfie employees are always going to be the first in the boss's thoughts." The story was picked up by online media outlets, including a newspaper which actually asked, "Can a selfie a work day keep poverty away?" It summarised, folks who take a lot of selfies naturally have a lot of self-confidence, and behind ability, that's the number 2 driver of a person's career. What interests me here is not the research, but the way in which it ideologically yokes together the selfie and economy of visibility and the rhetoric of self-confidence in the pursuit of workplace success. The report indicated that there was a correlation between selfie output, financial reward and personal recognition. Its overall message was that effective workplace conduct is measured through work, yes, but also through the performance of work. Social research shows that confidence as a personality trait is also historically embedded in the politics of class relations, and self-confidence turns out to be a channel through which education and earnings inequalities are transmitted right through the generations. We know that people born into financial security and who have enjoyed the benefits of a good education, strong social networks and cultural capital develop personal confidence and even sometimes a sense of entitlement. Knowing that contacts and capital will provide a safety net for failure allows the privileged to take risks, to stand out and to shine. For the wealthy and well-supported, self-confidence is built on solid economic and cultural foundations. For the rest, there is another option, you'll be pleased to know, the aping of self-confidence. The manufacture of self-confidence, of optimism and drive has become a much promoted strategy in Western culture. When employment is insecure and prospects look poor, fakery can be advocated as a tactic to energise the failing and the disappointed. In common language, you can fake it until you make it. Barbara Ehrenreich has argued that this cult of positive thinking has become the solution to hard times. She says that regardless of the context of our environment, we no longer feel we can change that. But positive thinking seeks to persuade us that the environment is not so important compared with our internal state, attitude or mood. Sociologists have argued that in late capitalism, the message is clear: your own life, your own failure. Hence, in the corporate motivation industry, every failure must be reconceived and even welcomed by the right-thinking individual as an opportunity. So, to return to my introduction and my workplace selfie taken with those MA students, workplace selfies are now encouraged because they illustrate the fun aspect of paid work. The language of workplace selfies emphasises employee positivity. Individuals and teams, it can be a team, are encouraged to celebrate their jobs and to display their enthusiasm and vigour. Agent, which is an online platform for entrepreneurs, for example, curates workplace selfies such as this one here, declaring, "Mark your professional accomplishments, hitting targets and the team spirit in your office by celebrating Workplace Wednesday." It showcases worker selfies taken in public and private sectors, charities, hospitals, TV studios, banks. This one is police recruitment officers, British police recruitment officers. The value of these images to company branding is obvious. Blogger and creative strategist, that's a job title, Sophie Andrews advises, do you want your customers to fall in love with your brand? Help them connect with you by providing them with a glimpse into the inner heart and soul of your company. Rather than lining everyone up for the group photo, which is what I suffered all those years ago, choose candid shots of you and your crew at work. Include playful images that show how much fun work can be. The association of selfies with spontaneity and fun, together with the conventional Western expectation that the camera requires a smile, can be harnessed to mask the power relations between capital and labour which form the basis of paid work. The soft power of selfies helps to personalise companies and brands. Companies use employee selfies to highlight initiatives, to recruit staff and to attract clients. In other words, selfies have become part of both human resource management and external marketing and PR. And PR is in the vanguard of the neoliberal project through its association with consumerism, celebrity and individualisation. Alongside accountants and lawyers, and perhaps others that I haven't thought about, PR naturally supports the elites on whose fortunes it depends. As a profession, PR refreshes itself and continues to be relevant by referencing 21st century trends in reality television, blogging and selfie culture. This slide is from the globally influential firm M&C Saatchi and includes a digital selfie board on its website. This is just a few of them. The selfies are of various sizes. They seem random and at first glance suggest a collegial, creative, anti-hierarchical collective. It really isn't, but that's what it looks like. The settings, the clothes, hairstyles and accessories help build a fashionable picture of well-turned-out professionals. They portray mainly younger, mostly white faces and are visually united in the monochrome colour. In fact, there is no visible text. You can't see it there in this light, but when you hover a cursor over those faces, the bigger portraits actually do have a name, and they have little bits of script that come up with them. The smaller portraits remain unnamed. And to give you one example, the guy up there, because I can see it's not come out, it says, Director of Finance and Operations, married, dad, driven, FC, cash. That's his little bio, okay? And several of them have these little bios attached to them. These profiles support Saatchi's overall message. We have happy, connected people based in 10 markets worldwide, all with one thing in common: we're driven by passion. I'm not saying people aren't driven by passion. I'm saying that the conversation about this is pushing out other kinds of conversations, and it's being managed, okay, in ways that are bigger than individuals. So these various uses of selfie culture blur the lines between private and public, between corporate publicity and social networking, and they testify to the erosion of distinctions between the personal self, the labouring self, and the branded self. And this chimes with the wider rhetoric of performance management that teaches us that workers need to be fully present in the workplace, body and soul. So, I'm coming towards the end now. In late capitalism, patterns of employment have shifted from the job for life to a lifetime of jobs, requiring workers to take more responsibility for updating their skills and adapting to change. We are encouraged, therefore, to undertake what's become known as career selfies, a phrase used to describe a self-audit to calculate your committed personal engagement with your employer. So career selfies is a metaphor in this sense. For example, engagement specialist, that's a job title. I keep saying that all the way through. That's a job title. Engagement specialist Kevin Sheridan advocates taking an engagement selfie quiz. He says, new situations pose new challenges. Acceptance of a new challenge begins with choosing an attitude of dealing with it. Instead of choosing the road to victimhood and disengagement, we can empower ourselves and choose positivity. This engagement selfie survey, which he's uploaded on his blog, will reveal the extent of your own engagement as an employee as well as offer useful tips on what you can do on your own to become more engaged at work. So the message here is that the worker is largely on their own, but he or she does have choices, okay? One's attitude towards the threat of change is paramount. If subjects regard change in the workplace as a problem, then they risk being labelled as a loser, a misfit, or a moaner. Like the other lessons already discussed, this lesson amplifies the neoliberal message that the resistant, questioning, or resentful worker is actually badly out of step with the times. So neoliberal lessons confidently dismiss collective action as a viable mode of engagement with the world of work, unless the collective action is the mobilisation of, say, the workplace team. And you get the kind of sports metaphors around the team. Teams are okay. Trades union membership and workplace lobbying for change or recognition is never mentioned in the conversations which take place about managing your engagement. These lessons automatically exclude capital labour relations and the politics which underpin them from public conversations. After all, as I asked in the next talk, how can we even have a conversation about collective action? How can we think these are relevant when the solution to workplace turbulence lies in the hands of the individual? In this context, our colleagues or peers are set up as competitors in the race for advancement. Teams may be strategically useful, but no one is going to take one for the team in the neoliberal world. Okay. Natasha Miller-Williams' blog, The Career Selfie, 7 Ways to Get Noticed at Work, uses social media metaphors to explain what's needed to stand out from the crowd. She says, no one else is going to look over your career like you can. Don't be too modest to talk about what you're doing around here. Go on, take a career selfie, shamelessly self-promote. Do something extra. In what ways can you add to your day-to-day role? This is the bit I like best. Think of this as a special effect, like an Instagram filter. Taking on a side project at work is a great way to get more visibility. The illustration, I haven't got time to talk about it in detail, unfortunately, but it highlights the playful, aspirational and empowering attitude that selfie culture encapsulates. You can see the small black girl seated behind the big desk taking a selfie. She's dressed in a smart suit and pearls, surrounded by the paraphernalia of individual workplace success, the globe, the laptop, the engraved work trophy. She's not playing grown-up in the usual sense because her clothes are perfectly cut to fit her tiny stature. She is a mini work-ready subject already learning how to make her neoliberal calling card. These usages of social media metaphors add a contemporary gloss to the usual career development advice. More importantly, the directives chime with the broader regulatory lessons and self-development which I've described through those other lessons. Overall, they attribute blame and redirect responsibility to the individual, and I think importantly help us to manage our own expectations in the workplace. And all the while they also reassure us that neoliberalism can also be fun. Otherwise, how would we still be putting up with it? So to conclude, I don't mean to dismiss the hopes and dreams of younger generations who engage with these lessons or to disrespect the leaders, teachers, mentors, coaches and influencers, many of them who are also young, who work every day to empower people. But individual ambition cannot by itself guarantee personal survival in markets where contracts are short, hours are unpredictable and agencies call the shots. Even in the once secure world of work in the public sector, in education, health, criminal justice, civil and social services, many of us as individuals will try to meet and all too often fail to meet those always moving targets. Personal failure is a common experience, sure enough. I'm thinking that taken together, these messages skew the public conversation too far in one direction and close off other useful ways of thinking about economic and personal progress. In other words, the confidence, real or fake, may not be enough. If a personal passion for work is the hallmark of employability, then surely it's unsustainable over the longer term. And it's unsustainable because neoliberalism doesn't recognise or speak to many of the basic needs and priorities that we actually have. Recent research has shown, for example, that the vast majority of Americans value lifetime jobs and financial stability way above individual opportunity. This is big research. It's not a small study. In Britain too, people are looking for constancy in the face of rapid change. The Prince's Trust Macquarie Youth Index showed that the overall well-being of 16 to 25-year-olds has fallen back to its lowest level since the financial downturn. This research took account of the impact of unemployment, money worries, precarious living conditions, and how this has affected young people's mental health and general resilience. But the desire for stability does not make sense in neoliberal terms. For neoliberalism, stability is always the problem and it's never the solution. Now, obviously, I couldn't finish on such a depressing note, and I did say that neoliberalism is fun. So our fifth and final lesson takes the form of a pep talk delivered by the character Kid President, another small child in a smart suit. The concept of Kid President was created with the goal of uniting grown-ups and children, crossing the generations. So here's one we can all enjoy, hopefully. In this video, which has had 42 million views, the Kid presents an appealing mixture of individual empowerment, positivity, team spirit, and the American dream. So here's his advice for us going forwards.
I think we all need a pep talk. The world needs to stop being boring. Yeah, boring is easy. Everybody can be boring, but you're good at that. Life is not a game, people. Life isn't a cereal either. But it is a cereal. And if life is a game, aren't we on the same team? I mean, really, right? I'm on your team, be on my team. This is life, people. You got air coming through your nose. You got heartbeat. That means it's time to do something. A poem. Two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled. It hurt, man! Really bad. Rocks, thorns, and glass. Parts broke. Not cool, Robert Frost, but was there really more too fast? I won't be the one that leads to awesome. It's like that dude Jordan said, don't stop believing, unless you dream of sleeping. Then you should be very real. I think that's how it goes. You need a better brain and keep going, and keep going. Will Michael Jordan have quit? Well, he did quit. Well, he retired. Yeah, he retired. But before that, in high school, what if he quit when he didn't make the team? He would have never made Space Jam. Never made Space Jam. What will be your Space Jam? What will you create will make the world awesome? Nothing if you keep sitting there. That's why I'm talking to you today. This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other. If we're all on the same team, let's start acting like it. We got work to do. We can cry about it, or we can dance about it. We were made to be awesome. Let's get out there. I don't know everything. I'm just a kid. But I'm doing all this. So everybody's good, but gives the world a reason to dance. So get to it. You've just been pep talked. Create something that will make the world awesome.
So now we know. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, and I think you can tell from that applause that we appreciate it very much. I had a feeling I was going to really enjoy the lecture, and I really did enjoy the lecture. I didn't think I was going to find it quite so unsettling as I did. But I thought it was really, really very thought-provoking, and it made me think that, universities, part of the role of universities is to pay close attention to the world around us and to be acute observation people for society, often we may be not looking in the right places, and maybe we're not looking at places that are not taken seriously enough. And I got the sense that Anita really is looking in the right places. There's so much valuable material in what she's been doing. I think we should all congregate later for a selfie. A playful, candid one, not a group photograph. But before then, we will, those of you who've been to these before, we don't take questions, but we do ask a distinguished colleague from another university to come and respond on our behalf. And I'm really pleased to say we've got Professor Janet Jones from London South Bank University. Janet.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I hope this isn't going to be my Theresa May moment, because I unfortunately have lost my voice. I don't usually talk an octave lower than my... May I first start by thanking Professor Anita Biressi for an incredible talk. Not only was it written perfectly, but it was performed perfectly too, so it's quite difficult to follow up. And also, thank you very much, Professor Paula Bray, for your introduction. And I can't tell you what a pleasure it is actually to be here. I was so honoured to be invited when I got the email from you, Anita, because we've had a couple of decades working together, sharing platforms, and it's such an amazing opportunity for me to come back into the fold, hear about what you're doing, what you're writing. Just a quick note on why this is so important. I feel a bit like being the best man at a wedding. It's an inaugural ceremonial practice that dates back to medieval years. The original Roman meaning for the word professor is to confess to the public, sharing one's knowledge to a general audience, setting an agenda for community and for society. Now, there's little doubt that the agenda that Anita has put before us today satisfies that requirement perfectly. And she has done so in her wonderfully unpretentious and unassuming and self-deprecating manner, which I always enjoy. These are issues fundamental to the health and well-being of our society, and I concur with you, Professor Paula Bray, that it does make you feel slightly uneasy to listen to, quite difficult to listen to. So tonight you've not let us down. Your page-turning and also high level of criticality gives me an opportunity to pick up a few things and perhaps move the agenda forward a little bit tonight. This lecture, from what I understand of your work and what I've experienced, is an extension of Anita's research over the last decades. It's deeply rooted in work around class and contemporary British culture. The co-authored book of the same name, written with Heather Nunn, is a standout contribution, reviewed as a richly evidenced, tightly argued and deeply reflexive book. The self-reflexivity, again, that makes your work stand out. The book, which I would say you could agree is probably the highlight, one of your many highlights, but a very important highlight of your career, echoes the fundamental question of today's lecture. Excuse me, a question of profound importance. What happens to class in societies supposedly organised around market freedoms, but ever more unequal in their operations? Anita Biressi and Heather Nunn's answer, observes commentator Nick Caldry in a glowing book review, demonstrates in a series of brilliant analyses that class gets reshaped as a field of harsh cultural differentiation, hardwired into a supposedly open and a plural popular culture. And this today is very much a part of what that work that you both created a few years ago. It's a very natural extension of that. Taking you back a couple of decades now, because it has been a couple of decades since the dawn of this thing called reality TV. That was when Anita and I first met each other, actually, this aberration where media and cultural studies scholars tried to understand what Big Brother was all about, or even before that, what docu-soap was all about. At the time, Peter Bazalgette, the father of Big Brother UK, went so far as to suggest that Big Brother was the first genuinely democratic media product, putting viewers in the driving seat. Well, not really. I think we all discovered that that was an illusion, alongside the illusionary state that we've been talking about this evening. this blurring of lines between private and public, what John Dovey referred to 20 years ago now as the freak show, it continues in the guise of neoliberal X, Y, and Z. I don't know how else to put it other than the way Anita put it, and that is, powerful as the illusion, the association of selfies with spontaneity and fun, she reminds us, together with a conventional Western expectation that the camera requires a smile, can be harnessed to mask the power relations between capital and labour, the continuation of the neoliberal project. So what I like about Anita's work is a knack for spotting things that a lot of people miss. What links her intellectual journey across the years is actually an ability to reveal that the emperor has no clothes. It's quite striking, actually. She forces us to recognise the wicked problems that afflict our society. She offers no solutions, unless you have some later over a drink. I'm very happy to hear them. I don't expect solutions. I don't think any one of us in this room has a solution. But she encourages us to listen and then to work together to act in support. And in this case, of potentially a lost younger generation, one that perhaps doesn't recognise its loss, but reflects its uncertainty and its confusion in a host of metrics reporting its unhappiness. Anita's message this evening is a difficult message for parents to hear. In fact, it strikes a fear into my heart as I look look slightly differently with new eyes on the lives of my 21-year-old, my 25-year-old, and my 13-year-old. The chill that I'm feeling maybe not could be attributed perhaps to the beast from the east or whatever, the mini beast from the east, but I don't think so. I think I do feel the fear tonight, so I'd like some warm reassurance as a parent of teenage and early 20s. So there you go. Yes, my 25-year-old does indulge in avocado on toast. That is not a cliche, and she does live at home. Okay, I'm going to... Whoops. Excuse me. There's the water. Cheers. So, one of my early mentors, whilst I was working at the BBC, was Professor Charles Handy. I'm not sure how many of you have come across Professor Charles Handy. He's oddly famous for being one of the only atheists ever permitted a regular slot on Thought for the Day, which is the BBC Radio 4's Today programme. But you didn't know that they had an atheist reporting on. They sacked him after a while. Somebody got the idea that he wasn't perhaps quite the right person to have on Thought for the Day. Never mind. Anyway, he was really important, and I think he's somebody that Anita you'd get on with. He is an economist and a philosopher, and would have made an excellent respondent tonight, but I'm afraid you got me instead. But my favourite Handy quote resonates with Professor Biressi's script. He says, "I needs we to be fully I." Professor Handy, like Anita, saw things very clearly. He too worried about neoliberal progress masking other important issues. He conveyed his concern that increasing efficiency and economic growth often came at the expense of people. In his book, The Empty Raincoat, 1994, he said that although competition may be healthy and maybe even vital, there must be more to life than just winning, or we should nearly all be sad losers. He notes that Adam Smith may have written The Wealth of Nations, but he was a professor of moral philosophy, not economics. A market is a mechanism for sorting the efficient from the less efficient, but it's no substitute for social responsibility. A stable society is based on citizens having regard for others, a collective. So no one takes it for the team anymore? Well, let's hope we can change that. The selfish selfie? I don't know, what can we do to change that? Anyway, the great potential of Professor Biressi's ideas is how they open up new opportunities to fix the problems she highlights. We need to recognise a problem, call it out, and support the next generation to become more resilient, supporting their well-being as they navigate the byproducts of decades of neoliberalism and digital disruption. So the challenge you've set us is to collectively initiate a dialogue that recognises the problem when one exists, rather than paint over the cracks. And as cultural observers, many of us in the crowd today are, and theorists, we should do a little bit more, perhaps a call to action really, to alert those in power at all levels, across all institutions, that the neoliberal dream has to be challenged for the sake of the next generation. So thank you again for giving me this opportunity to respond to Anita tonight. It's been a great honour. I'm going to end by saying to all of the young scholars in the crowd, take advantage of the evening to get to know Anita a bit better and take up the challenges that she's laid before you. And let's see if we can make the world a slightly kinder and more insightful place. Thank you very much.